how do you become a best-selling author and the host of a new TV show without a huge social media following, and even if the big four networks don't know who you are, at least not yet? Let's find out in this new episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward, hosted by my client, Zander Sprague, best-selling author and now TV host. In this new episode, he interviews me, Aurora Winter, and we talk about strategic basics, and he gives away his secrets. Let's take a peek.
I love the fact that I get to do something that I am passionate about, and I hope that you're enjoying it too. Today, I am so very honored to be joined by Aurora Winter, who is not only my friend and my mentor, but she's also my business coach who has helped me to take the road less traveled and to get here. So Aurora, welcome.
It's so great to be on this show with you, Zander. And I love that quote from Robert Frost, the road less traveled. That's you. You've taken the road less traveled and you're living your epic dreams and helping other people too. So well done.
That's great. So Aurora, tell us a little about who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, as you know, as you don't know, I love communication. So I'm a former TV producer. I'm the author of 10 books. I'm the founder of Same Page Publishing. And I have several books, including Turn Words into Wealth, Blueprint for Your Business Brand and Book, and a new book that's going to be announced on this show coming soon. So what I love to do is help people with communication so they can make a bigger income and make a bigger impact, as you are doing.
Well, yes, I am, and I benefit from your mentorship to allow me to understand how to do things that seem impossible. One of those things was becoming a best-selling author, not once, but twice.
Exactly right. Award-winning best-selling author, no less. Exactly, and we've been through this process together with your first book, Making Lemonade, and then Why Don't They Cry, and then Epic Begins with One Step Forward, which I think is the coup de grace, which everybody should read. It's an amazing book, and it really will encourage you, to take the epic journey. Maybe you want to be a TV host like Zander. Maybe you want to do something else. But I just love your book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward.
Thank you.
I think people can even get it for free on your website.
They can get it for free on my website. I want to share just a little, because Aurora was there for the very beginning of the Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I might have told this story before, but I do love telling it. In February of 2020, I had just finished up my hours for my internship to be able to become a licensed professional clinical counselor. I was all excited about taking the exam and moving on and all these plans I had. And as we know, in March, we had a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah.
And all of the things that I wanted to do, I wasn't going to be able to do. And I was talking with Aurora, because she's my friend, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't do anything. I can't take the exam. I can't speak. What am I going to do? And Aurora, being the highly creative person that she is, said, well, what about writing a book? And I said, well, Aurora, I'm a talker, not a typer. I don't like writing. But I had this idea as I sat on my couch, which is, in my life, I've done these epic things like run marathons and travel many places in the world. And it all began with one step. All I had to do is take that first step, and I discovered I was on this epic journey. And I said, that's just really resonating. And Aurora really liked that idea, and that whole Epic Begins with One Step Forward. And Aurora created the spoken
author method just for you.
Exactly. So talk a little about what that is.
Yeah, well, I love you because you present opportunities / challenges, and then I'm like, I can solve this problem. So one of the things I love about you is I call you, my nickname for Zander is he's the god of enthusiasm, which you probably noticed if you've been watching this show. So I love that enthusiastic energy, and I'm like, we could just bottle that and spread that through the world, and it would make the world a better place. But as you mentioned, you're a talker, you're not a typer. So I created the spoken author method. Zander was the first person to do it. He was my beta test case. And so we created the structure for the book, the outline for the book, and then I interviewed him in a podcast-like episode for each chapter. And the result was so easy to do and so fun. And then, of course, we had to tidy it up and polish it to turn it into a book. But then he also got the audio and the video, which was, you can probably find it online. So that also created more value. And also what was so cool about the spoken author method, which I now use with other people at Same Page Publishing, because it's a breakthrough. It's so fun and easy. You get more clear about what you want to say when you're speaking with somebody who's listening and paying attention. Whereas if you're working by yourself, typing on your computer, it doesn't create as quickly, or maybe ever, the depth of thought. So as I was interviewing you, you came up with better and better answers. And also you're very good at the sound bites. They just flow out and you're like, I've never said that before. I'm like, that's going in the book.
Absolutely. And it was really, it was so easy because I was doing what came naturally to me.
Yeah.
Talk and tell stories.
Exactly.
And that's great. And your Turn Words into Wealth book is great, but I believe that there's a new one.
There's a new one, yes indeed. It's called Strategic Basics. You can get a sneak peek if you go to the YouTube channel Strategic Basics. And what I'm doing, I'm loving this. This is so much fun. I'm taking breaking news stories, I'll give you an example in a minute if you'd like, and sharing those stories, and then my expertise as a publisher, communication expert, film and TV writer, but then breaking it down and pulling the curtain back so that people can see what are the messages that I could use in my business that are showcased by this story. Let me give an example because that probably wasn't very clear. So I love Mel Robbins' recent book. Yeah, I really love her book. Everybody's talking about it. Millions of books have been sold. She's on track perhaps to become the #1 nonfiction book this year, which was a huge breakthrough. But I almost didn't read the book. And here's why. I'm like, I kind of get it already from the title, Let Them. Mm-hmm. But then I read the book and I'm like, wow, this is a gift book. I'm going to give everybody I know this book. It's so moving. And so I shared the story on Strategic Basics, the YouTube channel, and in my book, forthcoming book, about how the book Let Them came to be. So let me give you a real quick example.
Sure.
Mel Robbins posted just a 45-second clip about let them be late, let them disrespect you, let them. She didn't really think that much of it until, the next day, whatever, 75 million views, something like that. And she's like, oh, people really like that message. So then she did a longer video, and then she did a podcast. People were getting tattoos, let them tattoos. The message really resonated. And so then finally she wrote the book with the help of her daughter. And there's 2 teachable moments in that every author or leader or expert can take away from this. 1, pay attention to what the market is responding to. So for example, I love your show, and as I was on the plane, maybe the first guest coming from LA to Northern California to be interviewed on his TV show, I'm sure not the last, I noticed that some of your TV episodes have 20 times more views than others. So whatever you did in those, do more of that. So that's the takeaway for all of us. Notice what's working and do more of that. And the other takeaway from Mel Robbins' story is I have people so often come to me with ideas for books or keynote talks or TEDx talks, but they say, well, it's been done before. It doesn't matter if it's been done before if you add your own personal story, because even if the concept has been done before, there's nobody exactly like you. There's nobody exactly like you, right? So whatever you do, you add that God of enthusiasm energy to it, and that makes it precious and wonderful and unique. And so even though the concept Let Them is
kind of basically Stoic philosophy, which we could all read in Marcus Aurelius's book. It's nice to get it from Mel Robbins with her stories that are like 2024 right now stories. The book came out December 2024. And I got so much value from reading the book. So those are the kind of the two lessons I want to share with people to encourage you. Pay attention. If you're a thought leader, a manager, an author, a speaker, pay attention to what people are responding to. Do more of that, like Mel Robbins. And then also, don't throw away an idea because you think it's already been done. Do your own take on it. Add research, add your stories, and you can make it really valuable. And Mel Robbins is a great example.
Absolutely, and I do. I so respect Mel, and I want to interview Mel. I want to know Mel. I want to be in Mel's universe because I think we're quite similar in the way that we think and what we're doing.
Yeah, you're very empowering. You care about people. You're accessible. You're authentic, and she has those same qualities.
Absolutely. And it's also interesting because as I create content to try and share my epic message, what I find is I don't know what's going to resonate with people, so I have to put a lot out there. Within my book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, I was surprised about some of the things that I said are little catchphrases, like "not yet."
I love the "not yet."
And "not yet" is, as
that
you
was
call
very
it,
catchy.
sticky.
It's sticky, yeah.
And people like that. And I paid attention to that and leaned into, okay, people like the concept of "not yet."
Yeah. You should
write
write a "not yet" book.
Exactly. What's funny about like all of the content creation that we can do is oftentimes the things that you think might resonate with people, the things that people are going to really like, they like it okay. And then
you're like, I put so much effort in this, and then crickets.
And then honestly, the video that is just something popped into your head, you just filmed yourself, it's not the best quality, is the thing that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Just like what Mel did, right?
Exactly. So it's
I
good
don't want
not
to call
to
it a
overanalyze.
throwaway, but a 45-second video was most likely, it popped into her head, she just wanted to share it.
Yeah.
And I do agree, like, pay attention to what is resonating with people. We see it in the movies all the time, like, oh, this should be a blockbuster, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then there's like, oh, the sleeper of the summer, right?
Yeah.
And that's interesting. How does all of that happen? No one really knows.
No one really. There's some magic with creative stuff. You can't. Sometimes if you overanalyze it, you just kill it because it's been made by committee instead of coming out organically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of like my podcast and this show, which is I'm just sort of having an organic conversation because I don't want the super, like, tightly, like, oh, I'll ask you a question, you answer in 2 minutes, and then I'll ask you another question. That's fine for some people, but for me, I'm more of a, let's see where it goes, let's explore it.
Well, on the plane on the way here, I was listening to the Joe Rogan episode, where the most recent one, which came out a couple of days ago, where he's interviewing Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they were both talking about is what you actually do, Zander, which is to let your curiosity lead you through the conversation, sort of like a quest for what wonderful thing will unfold here in this moment with Aurora or with my other guests. Like, you're really good at being present and doing that. And the result is so engaging because the audience knows, they're leaning forward to find out what Zander's going to find out next, right? So there is something about overly choreographed, overly staged that is off-putting because it's not alive.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have a chance to really ask that follow-up question.
Yeah.
I know there's so many interviews that I've seen where I'm like, but I want more. Where's the follow-up question to that? They just said that they have a new book and someone walked right by it. Well, what's the new book? What's that really cool idea? And so I do think that that's important, and I think for all of us, I don't know where my epic journey is going. I have things that I want to do, like this TV show.
And you're being courageous, and you're showing up, and you're taking one step forward, and then another step forward, and then another step forward. Like, we've known each other for a decade, and look how far you've come.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. And also, you're teaching through example. You're showing, hey, I'm a speaker, not a typer, but I've written 3 best-selling books.
Exactly.
Right? And now I've got a TV show, so you're also modeling. But I also want to just circle back around to my new book, Strategic Basics, because there also was a little follow-up story to that.
Sure.
I mentioned Jordan Peterson. He spent about a half a day writing several different articles, which he posted on Quora, and most of them like crickets. But one of them took off and was in the 99th percent answer, like response. They got millions of responses. Mm-hmm. And that eventually became the book, 12 Rules for Life. So we often look at people like Mel Robbins or Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan, and they're like, wow, they're just so amazing. How could we ever do that? But if you can break it down step by step and see that each of them took one epic step forward, and then they looked to see if there was a response. Oh, no response, move on to the next idea. Oh, big response, I'll double down onto that. And that's what you have been doing throughout all the time that I've known you this past decade. You're like, oh, I really care about these things. I really care about helping people live epic lives. Let me try a book. Oh, that worked really well. Let me go on podcasts. Oh, that worked well. Let me host a podcast. Well, that worked well. Let me have a TV show. Oh, that's working really well. So you're demonstrating it.
Well, thank you. I'm trying. It's at times it's challenging. I think the important part is you don't have to know every single step you're going to take, and oftentimes you don't, but you do have to take that one step forward. And my own life experience tells me that oftentimes that first step is not nearly as hard as I had imagined it would be. And like most people, there are times where I completely overthink something that I want to do, and I make it 50 times harder than it actually is. And then when I go take that first step, it's kind of like, well, gee, that wasn't that hard.
Well, the longer we put it off, the bigger chasm appears to be. It's like when you ran the Boston Marathon, but you don't start off going, okay, I'm watching TV and next day I'm running the marathon. You shared with me before we started recording, you broke it down to, okay, this is the training schedule. I do this day 1, I do this day 2, I do this day 3, and I don't know how many months you were training, but eventually you were ready to run the Boston Marathon.
Absolutely. And it is, I talk about structure. Structure is our friend, folks. It really is.
Yeah.
When Aurora's written 10 books, but she didn't just magically write these books. There was some structure. Maybe it's an outline. We created an outline for what we were going to talk about for Epic Begins. But then when we got into actually recording it, we had an idea of, okay, here's the idea that we're talking about today, and then we took 45 minutes, an hour, and talked about it.
That's right. And then magic would happen. But I think when you have a structure, it gives the freedom for that magic to happen. Like pulling back the curtain, you have a structure for this show. It starts with the thought of the day, then you celebrate somebody, then you interview a guest, then you wrap things up, and the time just whizzes by. And I watched a couple of guests, they're like, what? That was a half an hour? It felt like 5 minutes. But his structure gives a safe space for all the magic to unfold. So same when I interviewed you for your book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward. We knew what we wanted to accomplish. We knew what the chapters were. We knew basically some great content that you were going to deliver, but then magic would happen.
Absolutely. Now, let's step back for just a moment if we can, because when you and I first met, it was surrounding grief and each of our grief journeys. And although that is still an important part of what I'm doing, and it's important to you also, we're moving forward, and the funny thing is, it's not an and.
Tell me more.
It's not or. It's, it's sort of a and or. Like on a given day, I'm talking about sibling loss, and I'm talking about Epic.
I think, though, the fact that you've dealt with such incredible loss when your sister was murdered has given you such a depth of empathy and compassion to make you a much better TV host. Like, I watched that interview you just did with the gentleman, who has major health challenges and is on dialysis.
Yeah.
And you were so kind and compassionate, and you pulled his stories out of him. So for each of us, I think grief, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but we all experience grief to some extent or other. And if we can honor that it helps us have more empathy for others and for ourselves, it can become a superpower. I've seen it become one of your superpowers.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think it is the choice that we make on how we want to deal with that. But let's not just talk about grief. Let's talk about that entrepreneurial journey of embracing where you are, saying, all right, this didn't work. I joke all the time on my podcast that I'm a very generous entrepreneur and that I've spent thousands of dollars on productivity tools and things that are supposed to help me. And they're just not the right tool for me.
For you, yeah.
And it's not that they're bad. It's just not the right one for me. The same way that as a runner, when I first started running marathons, I tried different shoes to see which brand was the one that I liked, which one worked for me. And as an entrepreneur, we're going to fail. We're going to try stuff. It isn't going to work. And it could be easy. We'll go back to creating social media posts. You put it out there.
You put so much love and energy, you think about it all weekend, and then crickets. And then something you just whip off, it's like, whoa, people really like that.
Exactly.
Well, as you've heard me say, but maybe you haven't heard me say, entrepreneurs solve problems at a profit. So I like us all to lean into problems, because hidden in each problem is an opportunity. When you came to me with the problem, seemingly, of how am I going to write Epic Begins with One Step Forward, and then that created a breakthrough, let's do it the spoken author way. Yeah. So that was a breakthrough solution. So I think
for both of us, because it really worked for me, but for you as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I can replicate this, and other people might like this. It turns out that lots of people like it.
It turns out lots of people like that. And about half of my clients are dyslexic or have ADHD. So it's much easier for them to talk. In fact, most people find it easier to talk than to type. And the big secret is that, Churchill didn't type all of his books. He spoke them, and then his secretaries typed them up. All the politicians who have books, they're not slaving away at their typewriter, they speak to somebody. But it's just kind of hidden. That part of it is hidden, so most people don't know. Yeah. But I think you and I are both tapped into our missions. When I realized, after I got my MBA in 2015, I'm like, okay, God, what do I do now? And I realized that my passion is to help people like you. I love to help leaders and experts and entrepreneurs make a bigger difference. And because I've studied communication since I was 9 years old, the best way for me to make a difference in the world is by having helping people to publish books or get their TED Talk or get their communication more crystal clear so they can raise millions, and then possibly raise capital, do a TED Talk, have a best-selling book, have a TV show. So that's what I'm passionate about doing.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that I get to work with you, all these years, because you certainly have helped me so much. And at times, yes, push me. I know I seem like I got it all working, but I can tell you that my weekly calls with Aurora, there are times where there's a little tough love there of, hey, you didn't get that done, and there's no reason you can't get it done, or why aren't you creating more videos? Because I know your TV show isn't until next week, so you could get a couple of videos. So, I do really appreciate that.
But you hopefully know that there's love underneath all
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Aurora, believe it or not,
the time flew by.
Our time is nigh. And just as we're wrapping up here, what would you like, just one or two thoughts about your new book that you'd like people to know?
Well, I'd love people to, for free, go to Strategic Basics on YouTube, and they can get the flavor of the coming book. It's basically taking breaking news stories and leaning into those from the perspective of an entrepreneur, a publisher, a TV producer, and a communicator, and then seeing, okay, what is the message behind that news story that you could use? So it's actually going to be not only a book, but an audiobook and a video book, because I'm creating the videos for each chapter. I'm doing this spoken author on steroids.
Look at that. Look at that. Doing what you invented. That is awesome. Well, Aurora, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Zander.